Hi, I'm Clark Mershon, Executive Director of the Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Heart to Heart. Today is May 21st, 2020, and I'm happy to have with me today Dr. Eric Johnson, Principal of Winnetonka High School in North Kansas City Schools. Thanks, Eric, for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for the invite, Clark. I appreciate it.
Well, Eric, back on February 10th, there was a big surprise announcement at Winnetonka High School, where you were named the Jim L. King Missouri High School Principal of the Year for the 2020-2021 school year. Let's take a few moments just to reflect on what that meant to you, Eric, and everyone there at Winnetonka.
I was humbled. First of all, Clark, thank you and the staff at MoASSP for even acknowledging some of the things that are happening here at Winnetonka, and for blessing me with the opportunity to be named the High School Principal of the Year for the state of Missouri. That day it's hard to even put into words. I don't think I've still wrapped my mind around it yet. I think part of it was a huge surprise. I learned that my assistant principals do a pretty good job of not telling me the truth about a couple of things, because I thought I was walking into the gym to receive a grant from an organization because the teacher had done something great. And when I get in there, there were just so many students and the entire student body, my staff, my family, and everyone was there to celebrate this accomplishment. And it's just meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to our school that I would be recognized in that way. And I really appreciate it.
Well, why don't you share a little bit about your educational journey up to this point?
Okay. So I attended Mizzou. Loved my experiences at the University of Missouri. So I was in Columbia for 14 years. I got my bachelor's in secondary education with an emphasis in English, and I taught English language arts at Rockbridge High School in Columbia. And after 4 years teaching at Rockbridge, I became an assistant principal at Hickman High School. And that's where I was also the building principal for 3 years as well. So assistant principal at Hickman for 4, building principal for 3. And then I came home. I'm originally from Kansas City, and God blessed me to be here at Winnetonka High School. This is my 3rd year here.
There, just a couple of months ago, we were all sailing along, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Until, mid-March or so, and then our personal and professional lives were profoundly turned upside down.
Yes.
Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals, we're doing business much differently now than we were doing just 8 weeks ago. What school days look like for you in recent weeks?
Oh, wow. A lot of communication with people, making sure that folks have what they need. When you think about the pandemic and all that it's brought about, it's not just we've had to change our primary mode of delivery for education. It's making sure that we're still honoring the fact that we're dealing with people every single day. We're dealing with kids, we're dealing with parents, teachers, folks who have emotional connections and ties to what's happening now, and their world has gotten turned upside down. So my typical day has looked like making sure folks have what they need, ensuring that education still goes forth, ensuring that families who are most fragile have what they need during this time. It's really just trying to be attuned to what are the needs of people.
You know, the fact is that the principal chair has gotten exceedingly more complicated.
Yes, it has.
In recent weeks. And we have had many conversations with principals around the state in the last 8 weeks, and they are shouldering an immense burden and responsibility for their building. How have you led your staff, students, and school community during these unmatched times in our history?
That's an excellent question. I think it goes back to what I was just talking about, just making sure people have what they need. I think the biggest lesson I learned through this COVID-19 experience is your job as a building principal is not to try to make everybody happy, right? You want to lead with inspiration, but your job is not always to make sure people have happiness at the end. It's to make sure they feel heard. It's to make sure you are being empathetic to what they need. So the way I've tried to lead is to be honest with people, to make sure folks recognize that it's okay to not be okay at certain times, and that the roller coaster emotions that we feel, those are natural and normal. And my job is to help you navigate those, not just parents and students, but also my staff, my admin team, and myself, just making sure that I'm aware of those types of things. So the way that I've tried to lead is through honesty and integrity and making sure folks just have what they need. I really think about some of the political sides that come along with this and what the COVID-19 experience has shown us. It really has brought to light the digital divide that we have across communities. It shows us that the divide between the haves and the have-nots and how that impacts education and livelihood. There's just a lot that I've had to think about beyond education that I think has made me a better leader in these past 8 weeks.
Well, as we bring closure to the school year, and I understand the last day of school for North Kansas City Schools is tomorrow.
It is.
What does that look like for you at Winnetonka High School?
So the biggest thing is making sure my seniors have what they need. So they do not have an opportunity to experience a traditional graduation like most graduates have had. So we've had to be very strategic. We had to be very creative in making sure that we gave them those time-honored traditions that come along with graduation, even though we cannot provide them that traditional set of experiences that they would typically have. So what it looks like is making sure that the graduates feel the love, make sure that they get a chance to be recognized, make sure that we're honoring what parents are feeling in this time, because I couldn't imagine being the parent of a senior and not being able to see my baby walk across that stage when I've been leaning toward that for the past 13 years. So just making sure families have what they need. Also, we're just doing some end of the year processes, normal strategic things that teachers have to do, closing out the school year, finalizing grades, and preparing for the next school year.
Well, looking ahead to summer and transitioning back in the fall, how are you and your staff preparing for the upcoming school year?
Mm-hmm. I think the thing I'm most excited about is we've used this experience as a learning experience. Like I said, we completely changed our primary mode of delivery for education in 3 or 4 days. We set those things up, and it would be, I would say, irresponsible of us to go back to business as normal when school starts again. What we learned in terms of how to utilize technology and incorporate that into our instruction in a natural and authentic way, I think has been the biggest thing that we've learned from this. And as we prepare for next school year, we're trying to figure out how do we take what we've learned through this experience and implement it and incorporate it into the educational experiences of our kids for next school year. So we're just really looking forward to planning and continue to grow. The biggest thing is we're relationship based. We're excited about getting back together. We are a school who thrives on relationships, and we are just excited to see kids again, get them back in the building. There's like tumbleweed going through the hallways right now, man. It's empty, and I just need to get my people back in the building.
Absolutely. Hey, developing a master schedule for the fall looks really more challenging now than ever before, isn't it?
Absolutely. And my assistant principal, Dixie Westcott, she has 35 years of experience in education, and she's our master scheduler. And
you're going to miss Dixie.
Oh my goodness.
I think the world of Dixie. You're going to miss her.
I'm going to miss her so much, man. You're going to make me emotional in front of all the principals in the state right now. You got to quit it. But yeah, I'm definitely going to miss Dixie. But she's keeping all those things in mind as we're planning for next school year. What does it look like to socially distance students? How do we keep classroom sizes to a minimum and still be responsible in terms of FTE and staffing? What do hallway transitions look like in lunch and assemblies? So we're thinking about all those things.
And graduation is scheduled for next week?
So we have a virtual graduation that's May 27th. And we did all of our pre-recording for that a couple of weeks ago. And it was an amazing experience. So like I said, we can't recreate the magic that occurs on a graduation night, but I think we've come very, very close to making sure that all the emotion that comes along with graduation, making sure we pay attention to those small moments. I think those things are all embedded within that virtual graduation. One thing that I think highlights or accentuates the virtual graduation that we're going to have next week is the progressive things that we've done before that. On the 14th was our original graduation date. We had our seniors come into the building, of course, using social distancing guidelines, and they did a photo day where we had the hallway set up for them. We played pomp and circumstance. We named we read every kid's name, and they walked down the red carpet in their cap and gown and took pictures in the building in some various locations to make them have some closure, so they didn't feel like they just left the building March 13th and never returned. So graduation's next week, but we've done some progressive things to make sure the kids have felt the love before that.
With no air horns, right?
No air horns were in the building at that time, no.
Well, Eric, thank you for visiting with me today. Do you have any closing thoughts, any advice for your colleagues around the state?
I think the biggest thing I would say to my colleagues across the state is, one thing that I mentioned to our colleagues here in the Kansas City area is that leadership doesn't have to be lonely. Leadership definitely does not have to be lonely. And when you're in times like this, we have to lean on one another to make sure that we are maximizing our talents as well as the talents of other people to make sure we're taking care of the folks that are in our charge. So that's the biggest advice. Make sure that you reach out and develop a network of other principals, because you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to have all the answers. And it's okay for you to go through your range of emotions as well.
That's great advice for all of us, Eric. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Eric, for being with us here today. All the best as you continue to lead Winnetonka. I've been visiting with Dr. Eric Johnson, principal of Winnetonka High School and North Kansas City Schools, and the Jim L. King, Missouri High School Principal of the Year. MoASSP has been the voice and face of secondary school administrators in Missouri since 1925. Our pledge is to keep moving forward, championing secondary school administrators. If there's anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to call our office. Check us out at moassp.org. Take care.